Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, KJ Andy O is back, and this time I have something very special. This is a WiiM Sound Lite speaker. I already have one mounted right here. In fact, I wanted to buy one first just to make sure it's a decent speaker. A lot of people are not familiar with this type of speaker yet, and I'll tell you what it is. This is a speaker that you can cast to from a device like your phone or computer right to the speaker, and then the speaker does the heavy lifting and gets all the data from the internet through your Wi-Fi router. So once you send it a command, the speaker handles everything else from there. The speaker has a 100-watt amplifier built in. It features a silk tweeter and a 4-inch woofer, and you're like, how are you going to get any bass out of a 4-inch woofer? Oh, you do. You definitely do. And it's not the kind of droning bass. It's like a nice punchy bass, but certain songs that have that super low bass, you could actually hear it from this speaker where other speakers kind of diminish that part of the sound. Also, when I purchased the speaker, I'm thinking, how am I going to mount it? I don't really have a bookshelf. I don't want to place it down low because my ears are up here. And I thought, I'll get a speaker stand. But when I saw the pattern of holes on the bottom of the speaker, I quickly realized there's not an easy turnkey solution. However, obviously, I was able to make it work, and I did find a stand that will work. I purchased the stand from Amazon, and I'll put a link in my description for it. Also, I'll put a link in my description back to WiiM's homepage, in addition to the Amazon page where I purchased the product. Here's kind of a look at their homepage. You could see it. This is the WiiM Sound Lite. They also have a regular sound, which has a display on the front of the speaker. It's pretty darn cool, but I figured I don't really need all that flashy stuff. But in case you're into something like that, I will also include a link. So here's my second Sound Lite. It arrived yesterday, and I can't wait to get this going. Time for a quick unboxing. Here's a look around the box. On the back panel, it has quite a few of the specifications. And I really like the packaging. If you notice, there's a lot of room around between the speaker and the box, so there's really no way it's going to get damaged during shipping. Packet of silica gel. The WiiM Sound Lite. That is just so beautiful. It has the same material going all the way around 360 degrees. Peel this off before the first use. They provide you with a WiiM Sound Lite Quick Start Guide. Very helpful guide. In fact, it goes over everything. They do provide you with a line-in cable. This goes to the speaker, and this end goes to whatever audio equipment line out you have. Also, this cable is completely optional. It's not required for regular use during casting and streaming operations. And the power cable. Looks like the power cable is 6 feet. Here's a closer look at the speaker. On the front is the WiiM logo and just this nice material, kind of like the speaker grills of the old days. On the top of the speaker, there's hidden interface buttons, and I'll show you those later. On the bottom of the speaker, there's some of the specifications. There's also 3 mounting holes where you can mount it to a stand. I'm only using the front one. And it has some nice padding going along, so you're not going to have any vibrations from whatever table or stand you set it on. Going out the back, there's line-in, power, and LAN. When powering on the speaker, it does take about 30 seconds to boot up. You'll see a white light. It'll start flashing. Going to the WiiM app, it found the speaker automatically. Clicking on Setup, you'll be notified about location access. Click Grant. While using the app, click Setup. It found my Wi-Fi, and I'll enter the password. Click Connect. You'll be notified when the speaker connected and your Wi-Fi signal strength is indicated. The top of the speaker stand has a mounting hole. The speaker stand came with this plate. It also came with this type of plate. I thought it might be able to work, but no, definitely not. I did screw it onto there, but the holes really didn't line up. So with this plate, you can see it has a little ridge that goes up. You want to position it this way so the speaker sits flat. And make sure it's pretty tight. To prevent it from loosening on its own, you might want to put some Loctite glue on the threads. That way it'll definitely stay in place. It's kind of difficult to show this step, but the speaker basically sits just like that. And you need to put a screw up from here into the frontmost hole on the speaker. The stand also comes with a couple washers, and I picked up some M4 by 10 screws at Home Depot. You want to put the washer on the screw and then feed it up. You just want to get that screw into the frontmost hole on the speaker. There we go, installation complete. Next is the issue with the cable management. You could see the power cord going down. The pole does have a way to fit wires through it, but it won't fit the ends on these cables. So I figured out an alternate idea. I picked up some 1-inch cord organizers from Home Depot. These work great. Size it up, and I would cut it right before the small pole goes into the larger pole because there's a knob right there. So I'm wrapping this around the speaker stand and the power cable. There we go, that looks a lot better, and all I have to do is the bottom section. The bottom is now secured, and that certainly looks a lot cleaner. Welcome back, everybody. That was a look at the WiiM Sound Lite speakers. As you see, I have them both mounted here. I have a minimal amount of cable exposed. Everything worked out great during the setup. And I kind of wanted to show you in that little up and close how I mounted them on these stands. I think it's very valuable knowledge for other people who buy these speakers and want to set them up in a similar way. Oh yeah, there's one thing I totally forgot to show you in the up and close is the controls that are on top of the speaker. There's a look at the top of the speaker, and I could just wave my hand and the controls appear. Volume up, volume down, track back, or track restart depending on how many times you press it, and next track. And they eventually will disappear. There they go. There are some things that I want to mention before I go over the pros and the cons. I've been listening to different stereos and components for pretty much all of my life, and I really love clean, naturally reproduced sound. A lot of systems, you turn them up and they're oversaturated in either the bass or the treble. I haven't experienced anything like that. Oh wait, I'm going into the pros. Hold on a second. So I've been taking some notes as I've been on my WiiM journey, and I have a lot of information. Another thing I want to make clear is I purchased these speakers. I did not get them free for review or anything like that. So I could assure you this is a totally unbiased video. I don't gain anything from this. In fact, normally when I buy sound equipment or anything like that, electronics, I don't really review them. I don't. But I think this is such a worthy product that it needs to be brought to the public's eye. I have tested these speakers with a wide variety of different music. I would love to play them for you, but two things. One, YouTube copyright. I don't want to have to deal with that. Secondly, if I record to a microphone from these speakers, you're really never going to get the experience. Some of the music I jotted down worth listening was Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, James Newton Howard and Friends from Sheffield Labs, Steely Dan, I listened to Asia, the Tchaikovsky 1812 Overture. I think it's from the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. It has these cannon blasts. Wow. I've listened to some really heavy technical metal like the band Death, specifically their Symbolic album. It just sounded phenomenal, like I've never heard it sound that way. I've listened to a couple Frank Zappa albums going way back to his Apostrophe album, and then a little bit more forward to his Joe's Garage 3-record set. Amazing. Another one I used to work at a company called Reveal Computer Products way back in the day, and they released speakers while I was there. It was really a computer peripheral company, and they had a CD sampler from Warner Brothers. And it's not really my cup of tea of music for a lot of it, but one of the tracks that really stood out was a song by Madonna called You'll See. The vocals, it sounded like she was like right there in the room. Freaking amazing. So I want to go over my audio setup. Obviously, you know, these are great speakers that you can cast to. They will stream on their own. No brainer, works great. I do have some other things connected. I have a mini PC here running a Ryzen 9 chip, and it's 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte hard drive. I have all kinds of emulators. I have my video editing software on there so I could video edit right on the big screen. The computer's connected to the TV through HDMI. The TV, I think it's a 55-inch TCL. It works great, really clear, nice brightness, real sharp. And I thought, how am I going to get the audio out of it to these speakers? I could run Bluetooth. However, if you use Bluetooth for your audio, no matter what kind of audio, I mean, it doesn't matter what brand, it's always going to reduce the frequencies a bit, and you're not going to get the full high fidelity of the sound. The next best option, which still isn't really the best, but it's definitely darn good, is an optical cable out of the TV. I have that going into a digital audio converter, and from the digital audio converter, I have it going to an AB switch box. I have the AB switch box mounted right on the edge of this entertainment center. I just flip it up or down. From the switch box, I have a 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter stereo tip cable connecting the switch box to the auxiliary in or line in on the WiiM. But wait, there's more. Of course there's more. I have an AB switch box. The second device connected to B on the switch box is a lossless digital audio player, like an MP3 player. And this thing puts out some amazing sound. It has line out. I don't go through the headphone out. It actually has headphone out and line out. And you know what? I'll put a link to this in the description as well. Why not? It's definitely not very expensive at all. So there you go. Now you know a little bit something about my sound setup. These are very versatile speakers. Time to go over the pros. These speakers, let me first tell you, they have the most natural sound that I have heard in a long time for a speaker in this price range. I'm really quite blown away by it. Not only is it a natural sound, but the stereo imaging and soundstage. I mean, there's stuff I could hear that I just wouldn't pick up from other speakers. Like as far as the right and left channel on some older stereo recordings where they really made use of the panning, just sounds incredible. I think, Rush Moving Pictures, I listened to that, and some of the fills that Neil did literally go from this side over to this side. I was just blown away by that. Everything sounds amazing. Same with Steely Dan. You could really hear the presence of all the different musicians and all of the different individual sounds. You could really pick them apart and point them out. So far, the highest that I have taken these is to 80% out of 100% volume. I don't know. I don't really like to run speakers at 100% all the time. I think the amps usually get really warm. I don't know. It's just something I don't like to do. So usually for me, the max on most systems I go is 80%. With all the music I've thrown at it, and there's still a bunch more that I didn't even tell you about because what I told you about pretty much sums up a whole spectrum of different music. At 80% volume, zero distortion, zero clipping, nothing sounded harsh. If anything, it just sounded natural. That could be partially due to my EQ settings. I do have it in a standard kind of U like that. The mid-range I have flat. I really don't feel like I need to increase them or decrease them. The bass, I boosted up just a little bit, like 2 point something. It really isn't very high, and it's only the first 3 sliders. And then with the treble going all the way to the other end, same thing, the last 3 sliders, just up a little bit to like 2 point something, and then tapers down to like 1 point something, and then like barely at 1. It's just the way I prefer to have it. Everyone likes their sound dialed in differently, and of course it depends on what you're listening to, but what's great is the flexibility to be able to have a graphic equalizer, and there's also a parametric equalizer, which I haven't even played with yet. So that's something I look forward to trying in the future, but for right now, I'm a happy camper. These speakers are 100 watts each, and I think it's a very respectable 100 watts. A lot of other speaker systems I've heard over the years, they say 100 watts and it's more like 50 watts per channel and there's your 100 watts. Now these are 100 and 100. It's also really impressive with the small footprint of these speakers. They're not very large at all. And you can go to the WiiM's website. They have all the specifications of everything there. I didn't really want to go over all that right now because if you're interested, you're going to go to their website and check out exactly everything this speaker does. Connectivity to my router was so easy. You saw when I powered up the second speaker, I went to the app, boom, it found it. I didn't have to click on anything. It just automatically found it and added it to the stack. Now, I did have to go through and enable the stereo pairing and all that. And I do have some issues with that I'll go over in a bit. But let's keep going with the pros. One thing I noticed that was pretty bad at first was the latency between the TV and the speakers. And it looked like you were watching a bad foreign movie with the lips moving and the audio out of sync. Fortunately, there's a way to fix that from within the settings of the app. There's 3 different levels of latency. You just choose the smallest one, and it's fairly pretty much in sync. It really doesn't bother me. Maybe it's like a fraction of a millisecond off, but nothing that's noticeable, not like it was with the default settings. I already mentioned the graphic equalizer. It's great. It has a nice full spectrum. Adjusting it could be a little bit tricky depending on your device. I find it a little bit easier on a larger tablet. I also have it on my phone. It's a little bit more tricky with my fat fingers and trying to get in there. But one thing I did notice is I have the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and that phone has a stylus. When I use the stylus, it is so easy to adjust those sliders exactly where you want them. Speaker stand compatibility. Okay, so that's one thing. They're not really promoting any one type of speaker stand. They do have 3 M4 holes in the bottom of the speaker, so you can mount it kind of a variety of ways. But I'm really hoping one day they go with a certain speaker stand manufacturer, not something totally high-end where everyone has to pay through the nose, but something moderate, something that's moderately expensive, well built, and that has an exact mounting plate with those 3 holes that matches up and aligns with those 3 holes. I'm pretty happy with the way I have it right now, but I'll tell you right now, they're easy to turn. You see that? These stands are not the best, but they do hold it stable. They're not going to fall off or anything like that. It's just that they're not tight, like I said, I could wiggle them around a little bit. But once you keep them in whatever position you want, they're going to stay there. They're not going to move around during playback. I also like how the app has like a browse feature and a search feature for things that you want to look up. For instance, I could find YouTube music on the left-hand side. And when I do that, I could use the search magnifier to browse anything I want off of YouTube music and, of course, play it from there. Or I could go to the YouTube Music app and then use the cast option and choose WiiM. Another cool thing the app has is a thing called Room Fit. You could literally stand where you want to be listening most of the time from the speakers and then point your phone's microphone right at the speaker and preferably like at least 6 feet back. But when you do that, the speaker's going to send a bunch of different tones and the microphone on your phone is going to capture it and it's going to evaluate the acoustics of your room and set up the speaker to match those acoustics. I think that's really cool, but it does have one shortcoming, or I don't know. I don't know how you want to look at it, but it's part of my cons, and we're going into the cons right now. As cool as the Room Fit is, what they really need to do, and this is kind of overall from everything the app does with these speakers, is really make them more of a stereo pair, integrate them as one. Not one where they're both playing the same sounds, but one as far as the software is concerned. Maybe there should be like a master checkbox or something that says link all settings on both speakers. So that way it still has left and right stereo separation, but incorporates everything like Room Fit. Because when I run Room Fit, I got to do it on both speakers. See, once you have your speakers paired through stereo, it would be wonderful if you just ran the Room Fit and it automatically goes to this speaker, then that speaker, and then sets everything up properly so you don't have to go back in the app to the other speaker and do it twice. Same thing with the equalizer. When I'm on the left speaker EQ settings, all the profiles that show up are only for this speaker. The profile I set up on that speaker does not show up on the list and vice versa. I'm sure there are some people that would like different EQ settings on both left and right, but I think it would be also nice to have a checkbox in the app to like link both speakers' sound settings together. Like I said, with the Room Fit, with the EQ, because what I got to do is set up an EQ on the left side. I got to pay attention to exactly all the numbers that I had of each channel. Then I go to the right side and try to set that up. It's a bit of a learning curve, I will say. And it's just one of those things. I wish whatever presets you had set could apply to both speakers or be accessible to both speakers. Really, those are the only cons, the major ones that I could think of. There's other stuff like improvements and changes I would like to see. And actually, the cons kind of fall right into that because they're not really cons of the sound quality that you're going to expect from these speakers. Like I said, these are good to go. They're great quality. The sound reproduction is so natural. It's just some stuff in the firmware possibly and the app that they could update. One of the improvements that I would love to see, but I don't know if it's possible because there's limited space on the connection part of the speaker on the bottom back. It would be nicer to see RCA jacks there instead of a single line in or auxiliary in. To me, I think it's a little more professional and they usually last longer. But that's okay because the way I have it set up, the line in cable going into the speaker from my AV switch box never gets removed. It's always going to stay there. And if I want to change anything, I could always do it at the box level. I really like the WiiM ecosystem. There's one more item I want to get from them at some point. While these speakers do have really good bass response for a 4-inch woofer, I'll tell you, I've never heard anything like that from such a small woofer. They have a Subwoofer Pro or a Pro Subwoofer. I forget what the name is. It's an 8-inch, 250-watt subwoofer, and it connects seamlessly in the same ecosystem in that app. I would love to have that subwoofer because one thing these speakers won't do is provide that kind of theater shaking type of sensation, chest pounding, that kind of thing. You're not really going to get that from these. You'll get the sound, the audio is great, but that really deep bass that kind of shakes the house, you're not really going to get that because these are satellite speakers. They're not really designed for that. The subwoofer is a bit pricey. It comes in at $449. These came in, I believe they were $229 each, and I just can't do the subwoofer right now. But maybe someday I'll be able to afford it. I'll come back and I'll do a follow-up review on both these speakers and the experience I'm getting with the subwoofer. And that's about all I have for you right now. If you guys have used these speakers, and if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please drop me a line down below. I thoroughly enjoy hearing from you. I haven't put out a new video on this channel in such a super long time, and I've really been wanting to come up with something to get back in, and I think this is it right here. I highly recommend WiiM. Oh yeah, and I did try contacting their technical support, kind of to test the system and to ask them about the speaker stands. I got a reply next day. I mean, they were really on it, and we went a few rounds back and forth. Professional tech support. It didn't feel like I was getting a canned answer or I was getting an AI person. It really seemed like I was talking to a person there. That's a total bonus in this day and age. So that's about it, everybody. I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit thumbs up. If you didn't like it, hit thumbs down. If you're not part of my channel, KJ Andy O, hit that subscribe button. Hopefully I'll come back with more videos. I might put some of my live cooking videos here because my main channel right now is called The Food Experience. So if you're not part of that, check it out. I do a lot of barbecuing, grilling, some indoor cooking, different things. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you stopping by. And until next time, have a stellar day. Be excellent. And most of all, remember me, I'm KJ Andy O, your host with the most. Y'all take care. And I'll see you next time.